All right, Ali, what are we sampling today?
Yes, this is our cookie dough flavor. So it's our #1 seller for a reason. I mean, everyone loves cookie dough, and it has real chocolate chips in there. It tastes like just the cookie dough you used to eat out of the bowl when you were a kid, and it's all allergen-free. And I'll just do a little shot for the camera.
To get on in there, right?
Jar is yours, so you can double dip.
I'm double dipping. I certainly will.
Yeah, and my favorite thing to put this on is the dates, which I mentioned. And it's crazy that's made from oats, right? It's like
You would never know.
you would never know.
So good.
And people always ask how to eat it. And I honestly, they look at me in disbelief when I tell them straight out of the jar, but I love just like a spoon or two after dinner, like a little sweet mini, or you put on apples or yogurt.
Like a delicious, nutritious snack. So
Exactly.
welcome to Beyond the Board, where we break bread with some of the most interesting industry leaders. I'm Sonya Gafsi Oblisk, Chief Merchandising and Marketing Officer of Whole Foods Market, and I'm honored to host in-depth conversations with some of the most innovative and impactful leaders in the food and beverage industry. Today, we welcome Ali Bonar, the founder and Chief Vibes Officer of Oat Haus. Finding inspiration from her own personal journey in healing her relationship with food, she took to her parents' garage with two friends to engineer the first ever spreadable granola. 7 years later, Oat Haus is redefining what it means to build a food company grounded in joy, inclusion, and recovery. Ali, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. What a great intro. Wow. I want you to narrate my life.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you for being here with us. What do we have to sample today?
Oh my gosh, we have so much. We have our butters, which you guys sell. So the cookie dough is our top seller. We have the vanilla, which is sort of like a Nilla wafer, shortbread cookie vibe. We have original, which is like a cinnamon Teddy Graham.
Yeah.
And then the packets.
In preparing for this interview, I saw the National Eating Disorders Association reported that 9% of the U.S. population will have an eating disorder in their lifetime. I admire that you've been open about your recovery journey from orthorexia. Can you share a little bit more about how that journey shaped the mission of your company?
Definitely. Yeah. So I'm really open about it, both online and offline. But I struggled for over a decade with multiple eating disorders. And I think I really just got to a place with food where food was really stressful and rigid and just devoid of joy. And so with our products, that is, first and foremost, our #1 goal is just bringing the fun and play and emotion back into food. And I think, Whole Foods does such a good job of that because you guys have so many products that are good for your body, but also just are really exciting and colorful and playful. So, the reason that granola butter exists is from my eating disorder recovery. And so I always try to remind people, like, even in your darkest moments, there are these silver linings, and there are these moments where you can find that light. And I had a really hard time digesting nuts in my eating disorder recovery. And so that's why I created something that was nut-free. But yeah, it's been, a crazy journey. And I also hope to just, create more awareness around orthorexia, which is what I struggled with. So it's this obsession with eating perfectly clean all the time and, just focusing mostly on ingredients, but to a detriment. And so I think one of the hardest parts when I was struggling was, it wasn't the issues with food, but it was actually feeling alone. And so that's why it's really important. And I'm really open about sharing my journey just so other people can see, okay, there is hope, #1. And #2, I'm not broken or I'm not, alone in going through this. So that's a little bit about my journey.
Well, and you can see the joy and your focus on joy and food in your packaging and products. So thank you for sharing that. That's really nice. So you are working through your personal challenges. You get this idea. You're in your parents' garage. Tell me a little bit about what's happened.
Yes. So the first idea for granola butter, it was 2016, right when oat milk was kind of coming on the scene and popping up everywhere. And I just, as I mentioned, I had a hard time digesting nuts. So I tried the sunflower butters, I tried the soy nut butters and all these alternatives out there. And just taste-wise, they didn't do it for me personally. So I was, really inspired by what oat milk was doing. And I was like, kind of had this epiphany. If you could create a milk out of oats, you could probably create a spread out of oats. And so that's where the initial idea came from. And early on, it was just myself and my now husband. We're living in San Francisco, and we were just throwing, bagged granola into a Vitamix blender and just whipping it up and kind of seeing what happened. And it tasted terrible.
I was going to say, how did that work?
Yeah, it was so bad. And I remember bringing jars at the time I was working in health tech, totally different world. But I remember bringing jars to my coworkers, and, wet sand were some of the adjectives.
Oh, no.
Choking hazard was another one. And so, you couldn't pay me to eat this. So I knew that the idea was there, but the execution just wasn't.
Sure.
So long story short, we ended up bringing on our third co-founder, Ari, who was a Michelin star chef.
Oh, wow.
He was opening a restaurant in Paris, and he went to summer camp with Eric. So that's where our trifecta kind of comes from. So I'm more marketing, Eric is engineering, and then Ari is our culinary, flavor god. And so, we did probably 100 iterations of the first recipe of what we use today. And I actually remember when we landed on it, because two of us are from San Diego, and we were in this big house that Ari was living in with 7 other guys, and everyone was sleeping. It was 2 a.m. and we're in his bathroom, and we have this Vitamix blender, and we're blending it on low because it's just, we don't want to wake anyone up. And we finally tasted it, and we were like, this is it. This is the final recipe. We did it. I just remember being in his bathroom, and it was, a very, true startup story. But yeah, we, early days, packaged product in shipped out product in my parents' garage. We weren't making it in my parents' garage. It's not very food safe, but we were, shipping it out, the finished good, to customers, and we've just kind of grown it from there.
Yeah. What was the biggest challenge with scaling? Because you're in quite a few stores now. You have a big brand, beautiful packaging.
So many challenges. I think because we self-manufacture, that's been the hardest challenge. So no one's ever created granola butter before, which sounds very sexy and exciting. But the customer education piece, you probably have talked to so many founders who have created categories, and they'll say the exact same thing. Kombucha is a perfect example, where it's so, it's everywhere today. But 20 years ago, it was this hippie drink that, was smelly and weird. Yeah. And so I think that customer education has been really challenging. But one of the cool things about our product is it really combines these two quintessential Americana products, right? So you think a peanut butter or a nut butter and granola.
Yeah.
People get it. It's just weird enough. So that's where I think that helped us. And once people try it, they're obsessed. But I think the scaling was really challenging because no one else could make our product for us. So we couldn't use a co-packer because all of the co-packers were nut butter co-packers, and we're allergen-free. So we really had to teach ourselves how to run a factory.
Wow.
And we now have almost 50,000 square feet in Cleveland, Ohio, which is where we're living.
Oh.
And, tons of automation and crazy machines that I never thought I would be, in charge of. I'm not personally in charge of them, but our team is. And it's been a wild journey. But I think that is hard because you're essentially running two businesses, the marketing side and then the operations.
Yeah, I have profound respect here. I didn't even know that you all self-manufactured. That is really next level, to go from idea to product development to scaling to manufacturing. You are 100% integrated. So kudos to you and team. That's pretty awesome. So in leadership meetings, I often talk about playing the long game. We can never expect to win everything when we're in business or leading teams or working on projects. And sometimes a failure can feel like a stop, but that's actually what helps us ultimately move forward. And I think you're a great example of finding success after walking away from Shark Tank without offers. Is this true? Will you tell us about this story?
Yes, of course. Yeah, people always want to know about Shark Tank. So Shark Tank was actually such an amazing experience. And I know that sounds like a very PR answer because we didn't get a deal. But I mean, even I'm someone who, when people tell me no, maybe it's my delusion, but it's it's either I'm going to find someone else who's going to tell me yes, or I'm going to turn that no into a yes. Or with Shark Tank's case, I couldn't do either of those. So it was really, finding the silver lining and finding the positive in that experience. So we just launched in Costco last month, and Costco actually came to us from seeing us on Shark Tank.
Okay.
So it's maybe they could have come to us if we also got a deal, but it's just finding those little wins. And we got great exposure through being on Shark Tank, even though we didn't get a deal. But it was a wild experience. It was our third time applying when they finally called us back and we were like, yes, we want you guys on. The first time my husband, Eric, went, who's an engineer, he's not very forward facing.
Yes.
And so they didn't call him back because it was just him at the in-person. Second,
knowing to self, don't send the engineer.
Exactly. Poor guy. Yeah. He's self-admittedly, like, I like to be behind the scenes. Second time we took ourselves way too seriously. Like you submit a video and we were like, kind of very early in our business. So we really were eager to prove, like we just had a lot to prove. And I think the third time we really were just ourselves. Like Ari was playing the ukulele in the background. We were just acting silly and we're like, either this is going to land or it's not. And it did. So they called us back. And, I think what's really hard about being on national TV, especially, is you don't see the final edit until it appears live on national TV. But overall, I mean, it was great exposure. It was great practice. It was so scary. And, it was just like a good learning experience.
That is great. And look where you are today. So tell me a little bit, how did you land at Whole Foods?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Such a funny story. So 2019 is when we launched at Whole Foods. And a couple months before that, Whole Foods has always been a dream of mine personally. And I'm not just saying that because I'm talking to you, like truly, especially when I was really struggling with food. Like Whole Foods was this place that I would go and just find this comfort in walking through the aisles and looking at all these, shiny, beautiful products on shelves, and just dreamed of the day that I would sell my products here. Like it's crazy actually that I do now. It just doesn't feel real, honestly, even though it's been 6 years.
Yeah.
But I had no idea how the food industry worked. So I was living in San Diego at the time, which is where I'm from. And I just looked on LinkedIn. So I'm like, oh, the buyer must be on LinkedIn. And I found the name of the Southern Pacific buyer. I don't even think it was a Southern Pacific. I think it was like Southern California, local merchant or something. And her email wasn't on her LinkedIn, obviously. So I started just plugging and playing first initial dot last name at wholefoods.com. First name dot last name. Until
I love the perseverance.
Oh, that is, name of the game. A little bit of delusion maybe, but didn't get a bounce back. And so didn't hear back for a couple months. I'm like, oh, probably didn't get to her. She's not interested. She reaches back out. She's like, this is interesting. Can you send samples? So we sent samples. Again, didn't hear back for a couple months. And we were actually in the Uber on our way to our first Expo West show in 2019. We had a tiny little booth in like the emerging brand section. And we got the email that they wanted to launch one SKU in the Southern Pacific region in 50 doors. And I freaked out. I was like, I've made it. Like, I'm going to go on how I built this. Like, like I'm about to sell my company, because it just felt like such a big deal at the time. I mean, we had no employees. It was just, Eric, Ari, and myself in this commissary kitchen making it, in blenders. Like, truly, it was so early days. And so we had to reach out to some, friends in the industry and be like, how do I fill out this new item form? Like, I have no idea how this works. So we really, from day one, taught ourselves the ropes and asked for mentorship from, other people in the industry. But Whole Foods really took a chance on us in the early days. And I will never forget that. And I will always be so grateful because admittedly, granola butter is a weird idea. Like, it's not a common product. And so, now we have, 3 SKUs nationwide. And then we just added the packets and hopefully the granola, which I just pitched this morning. But it's been an amazing place because I think people are looking for those new products. Like,
they are.
I'm preaching to the choir, but it's like, you guys have such great, diversity with products and discoverability, and just people who shop there are looking for that new innovative idea.
It's so true. People love it. We often talk about our stores. It's like a destination for discovery and finding these fun things that bring together a lot of food trends, wellness trends, diet trends, our clean foods, particularly things that are mindful of allergens. Like you said, Oat Haus is all school safe. It's right up our alley. So any tips you have for founders who are just starting or even in the ideating stage with their own venture?
Yes. I'm not going to give actual business advice because I think there's plenty of it out there, but I will give mental health advice, which I'm really passionate about. Number one, find a good therapist. And that is something, it's like dating. I mean, you're going to go through a few that you don't click with, but that has really saved me. Even though I already have co-founders, I think there's just things that you need to talk about that with an objective third party. As you're growing a business, it is the most grueling experience that I've ever.
That.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't understand. I have a ton of female founder friends in food, in CPG. And even then, there's things that are just so personal to your brand and your situation. So that'd be my first thing is get a therapist. Second would be don't forget to nurture your personal relationships in terms of friends and family. So especially in the early days, I was working 24/7. I still work quite a bit, but I try to, find more balance. And I really forgot about my girlfriends and my friendships. And luckily, a lot of those women stuck with me because we have the history. But if I were to give, I miss out on a lot of personal experiences because I only prioritized work. And I know it feels like the most important thing when you're just starting. But if you can find little slivers of way to incorporate that, more balance is really important, especially for your own burnout and mental health.
Yeah.
So those would be my two pieces of advice.
Those are both great pieces of advice, I think, for entrepreneurs and many folks as we think about navigating work-life balance and bringing more joy into our lives, which I know is part of your mission, and that's awesome. So thank you for sharing. I want to transition and dig deeper into ingredients that Oat Haus uses. We had a team member, Ian Ferguson, from our Bridgeport store ask how the process of creating oat-based spread can be beneficial for gut health while not being over-processed to deteriorate any nutrients in the product.
Amazing question. Shout out Ian from Bridgeport. Yes. So oats, I am obsessed with oats. I mean, obviously I'm biased, but I think they're just such a miracle ingredient. And in terms of gut health particularly, so they're really rich in prebiotic fiber, which I know is a buzzword these days, but especially beta glucan. I did study nutrition in my undergrad, so I'm like,
wow.
I'm searching back through the archives right now. But, I think, so with us, a lot of people are surprised to hear that we actually, we do everything from scratch. So not only do we self-manufacture, but it's like, our granola that we make for the first step of our process, we're not buying it from anyone. We're making it from scratch. So we get in, purity protocol, which is the strictest standard of gluten-free oats, glyphosate-free, all the buzzwords, but from Canada. Unfortunately for us, right now, but we get those in, raw, and we bake the granola from scratch. So really the only processing that's happening with these oats is we're baking them in an oven, and then, we blend them in these high-powered machines. But they start raw, flakes. And so, you still get all of that really yummy prebiotic fiber. It's just kind of blended up, and it's really helpful for people. Actually, I've heard in our Instagram DMs and emails that, people who have a hard time digesting a lot of grains, because we kind of do the digesting for them. I know that doesn't sound very appetizing, but it's pre-blended. So it's really easy to digest. And so, it's just kind of easy on the gut.
That is very, very cool. Okay, I'm going to shift now to olive oil. Can you explain the economics and the marketing decision behind that ingredient?
Yes. So olive oil I'm also obsessed with olive oil. But olive oil was the first oil. I mean, we used it since day one. It was one of our hero ingredients. And we actually recently, I guess mid 2023, had to switch to sunflower oil for, temporarily, because there was a lot happening worldwide that contributed to that. A lot of droughts, a lot of, wars and stuff like that. And so the price of olive oil became so expensive. It was actually cost per pound was more expensive than our finished product.
Wow.
And so we just, as, a small business, we couldn't afford to keep using it. And it was probably the hardest decision for us personally as founders to make in the history of our business, because it was either, do we raise prices, which we didn't really want to sell our product for $20 a jar. It's just not our ethos. Or do we switch, because we're allergen-free, there's not a lot of alternative oils we could use. And it was just kind of as this cusp, this precipice of, the no seed oil trend was sort of happening. And so we switched over, and our customers let us know loud and clear right away, we don't want this oil. And it also just didn't taste as good, honestly. And so I think that was one of those learning experiences for me as a founder and a leader of like, there's times where customers are going to ask things of you and it's not the majority. And you're like, okay, I can't take everyone's feedback, right? Otherwise, like, what are you doing? But this was one of those times where, not only revenue wise, but also just feedback wise, we knew like we had to make the switch back. So the challenge was, how do we do that? Because it was so expensive. And so actually one of the ways we did that was through automation. So it was so great and helpful, even though I have a love-hate relationship with my self-manufacturing journey. It really helped us because, we were filling every single jar by hand for the first 6 years of our business. We filled over 4 million jars by hand. So, Eric and I were sleeping in wrist guards, like the carpal tunnel, it was insane. And so finally we got a machine that filled, 6 jars at a time. Anyway, so that was how we were able to switch back to olive oil. But for us, taste is everything. So yes, there are people that say olive oil is a healthier oil for you. I'm not a dietitian, so I don't really want to speak to any of that, or a researcher. But for us, it was just, it has this, je ne sais quoi, kind of this like flavor that just adds almost a little savory, just enough to kind of balance out and give that depth. So, especially for Ari, my co-founder, who's a chef, he was like, we got to get back to olive oil. So we've been back since January and we're never going back again. And we're so excited.
Such a good example of, we often talk about at Whole Foods, win-wins. And it like really sounds like you all found a great solution through automation that enabled you to get to the win for your product and ultimately delight your customers.
Yeah. I mean, it's about a year, but we were working.
You got there. It's all that matters.
Yeah.
It is all that matters. So what is your process like for developing new flavors and products? I know you have a very committed community of followers, both online and then obviously in store. Do you leverage them? How do you all come up with your new items?
100%. They are the backbone of everything we do. And I know every brand says that, but they are so fiercely loyal and like these little detectives. Like I actually posted on our story as I was packing to come here, and I threw in, well, I guess I can probably say it now because I don't know when this is airing, but I threw in our cinnamon roll granola, which we haven't launched on our website yet, and we pitched in the meeting this morning. And so I like crossed out the name so they wouldn't see what it is, and people were like zooming in and sending me screenshots, and they're like, what is this?
Oh my goodness.
It was like a tiny little corner in the photo. I'm like, you guys are detectives. So our community is so passionate. And I think the reason for that is because in the early days, I was sharing about my eating disorder recovery. And, we truly started in my parents' garage. Like I remember pulling out Instagram stories and like sweating and crying and being like, you guys, this is so hard. But I'm so passionate about what we're doing. Like, especially the community that's been with us since day one, they've seen every part of the process. And I've been really intentional about sharing the real, like not just the highlight reel, because, when I was just a consumer, I didn't like following brands that just showed the glossy highlight reel. Like it's not relatable to me. And just, I don't like following people in general that show that. And it makes me feel like, well, my life doesn't look like this. Like why, like I have laundry piling up. Why is your life so perfect? So I really like to show, as much as I can. Obviously it's a business. I try not to divulge every single detail, but, show people like this is really hard. And it's, if the reason you're becoming a founder is just to put it in your Instagram bio, like that's not enough. It's going to be the hardest thing you ever do. And your why has to be so strong. So anyways, our community is really strong, and we actually have like a close friends, on Instagram stories who I always pull. And even just, I'm the one responding to every DM on our Instagram.
Wow.
Because I like to be so involved and so connected to our community. And we've outsourced that in the past, and it just wasn't the same for me personally. I felt like I wasn't on the pulse of what's going on. It's hard work-life balance wise, but like, I don't know. I have to value what is most important to me, and like staying connected to our community is most important to me. So, we always are taking, people's ideas into consideration. Obviously, a lot has to do with ingredient costs, allergen-free. We're never going to make a peanut butter granola butter. But it definitely, a lot of these ideas come, from our community.
Yeah. And such great advice around staying close to your customer and knowing your customer. I believe as well that's foundational to any success in business. So, and I also love that you are listed as the Chief Vibe Officer on your LinkedIn poster or profile. That's amazing. And you brought great energy to the conversation today. So I am going to close us out with a fun lightning round, if that's okay.
Perfect.
All right. What was your first job?
I worked at Nordstrom in the juniors department. Brass plum, if anyone remembers.
I remember. And your personal motto?
My personal motto is don't forget to play.
Don't forget to play. That's a good one. Who is your mentor or hero?
My mom, I know that's pretty cliche, but she also is an entrepreneur. She's a dentist and she started her own practice and she was in the Navy.
That is sweet to say. Best advice you got from one of the sharks on Shark Tank?
That we can still win even if it was a no, even if we didn't get a deal.
And you lived to prove that to be the case.
I hope so.
Good advice. Learn by watching or learn by doing?
Doing. 100%.
Doing. It sounds like as someone who self-manufactures, I believe that you are learn by doing.
Yes.
What's the one daily habit that keeps you grounded?
I don't look at my phone first thing in the morning and before I go to bed. And that's really, I do a lot of our content, so I'm always plugged in. But that's been something, and on the weekends, I try not to really go on social media. So setting those boundaries where I can, because I find that if I look at it first thing, it just...
You get sucked in.
You get sucked in. Oh, yeah.
You are a role model for many with
I'm
that.
not perfect.
You are still. It's progress, not perfection. What is your all-time favorite Oat Haus flavor?
Oh, that's so hard. That's like asking my favorite child. Our cookie dough, probably, or our sugar cookie, which I don't have here today, but that was a limited edition that we keep bringing back because it's so popular. I love the sweeter flavors.
That sounds delish. Flavor that you loved that flopped?
So people always asked for protein. They're like, protein, because our product's made from oats, so I get it. We're not 20 grams of protein. So we're like, okay, we're going to make a protein flavor for you guys. So we did a vanilla protein. It had pea protein in it. And it's really hard, which you could probably imagine, to add protein to like a paste already. So the most we could get was like 5 grams protein without it being a choking hazard. And no one bought it. Like it wasn't even, people didn't repurchase it because it didn't taste good or something. It just No trial. And so I'm like, that was one experience where I learned, okay, customers may say they want something, but in practice, you have to look at the revenue and the data because, I don't know, people just didn't vote with their dollar. So, yeah.
Well said. And what is your favorite way to eat Oat Haus granola butter? Spoon, toast, or smoothie?
Ooh.
Or other option?
Oh my gosh. I'll do other option. I mean, I love it by the spoon, but something a little more fun is I put it in a medjool date and then a little flaky salt and a little chocolate, and then I freeze it. And it's like a healthy Snickers. It's really good. I like meal prep them every Sunday.
Oh, we need that recipe. That sounds delicious. All right. Last question. What's next for Oat Haus?
Ooh, well, hopefully Whole Foods launching our granola. Also, we have, lots of innovation in other categories. So we've been in the spreads category for many years, just kind of building up that customer education. And personally, I'm very excited to launch into other categories because it's, my ADHD is just ready for something new. Launching into fun new categories outside the jar.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Ali, and for sharing the Oat Haus story with our listeners. I enjoyed going beyond the board in our conversation and appreciate your dedication to the future of food. Ali Bonar has transformed a personal recovery journey into an accessible and enjoyable food with Oat Haus. From clean, inclusive ingredients to joyful branding, Oat Haus is redefining what wellness looks and tastes like. With a growing product line and a passionate mission, Ali is helping change the food industry one spoonful at a time. Thank you for tuning into Beyond the Board, where we highlight the people and products shaping the future of food. Until next time, let's keep supporting brands like Oat Haus that are doing good with every bite.